What's good, y'all? It's your boy Cold Blooded coming at you with another video. Just wanted to address a couple things that I saw on the forums, wanted to point them out and then try to pick them apart from there and show you workarounds or actual things that exist in the game that are fixes for whatever the issues may be. So last night I noticed somebody had an issue with the defense in the game. They said specifically that defense blocking is very unaffected, or even when the block bar is full. So I wanted to show you more a more intricate way to get your blocks out the way that I don't think people are aware of. The game does have without playing on simulation, the game does have a multi-axis defense system that you can utilize, and 100% blocking is very effective if you know how to utilize everything properly. Now, it's important you keep in mind the game is on a physics-based engine, and so you always want to put yourself in a position where your opponent's gloves or their fists are hitting your elbow, arm, shoulder, just anything in some way. You don't want to ever be getting hit in one of these six hitbox areas. Those are center, left, right, head, and or body. All right, so let's get to it. So with the Philly shell, obviously that shoulder, that left shoulder is always exposing the left side of his face. That's like a guarantee. In real life, anybody in his box before, you know, if you throw overhands and things like that, you're almost guaranteed to hit somebody on the eye or the top of the head when they're trying to shoulder roll. That exists in this game. Now, for people who have an issue defending with the Philly shell, I've noticed that whenever I throw a right hand, for example, against Deontay Wilder or even Roy Jones in this instance, the right hook almost always gets in. Sometimes it can be blocked. Like right there, you see the block meters coming up. But a lot of times, it does get through. Now, one of the ways I've noticed is like almost a guaranteed chance. There you go. At that time it got through, you see he just dropped to the guard. And if you watch on the right side of the screen, you'll see the controller is not being, no other buttons being pressed. He's just dropping his guard and let that right hand through. So it's not a 100% chance that the hook is going to land, but it is a high chance, like in real life. However, you can make it a 100% chance if you do an overhand. And that's one of the directional punches that always beat the Philly shell. Now, for those who do not know how to do an overhand in this game, you do it by holding back on the left stick and then throwing a hook. It's going to be an overhand. That's one of the directional punches. It beats the Philly shell. So now you're wondering, oh, well, how the hell do I block that if I'm using Roy Jones, Deontay Wilder, or in the future, Shakur Stevenson, and whoever else, Floyd Sr., Jeff Mayweather, whoever else they add that might be having the shoulder roll defense. Easy. Hold both triggers. Boom. Now you're going to block the overhand. So it's very important that when you're using a Philly shell fighter, you don't just hold the right trigger. You're now responsible for getting here more often as well. All right. Now I want to elaborate on this a little further. So what this indicates is that if you're using like Deontay Wilder, Roy Jones Jr., when a full roster comes out, Shakur Stevenson, Jeff, and/or Floyd Mayweather Sr., and whoever else may have the Philly shell defense in the game, this is telling. This lets you know you have to utilize the earmuff, peekaboo, handcuff, whatever you want to call them. You have to utilize your full defensive arsenal more often. You can't just rely on holding the block button. Most specifically with the Philly shell defense, you don't have the luxury of holding the block button and fending off right hands the way you typically would one of the other characters. That's fairly realistic. I do like that this exists in the game, but I don't like that it exists in the capacity that it exists in, where he literally just looks like he's about to block the body and allows you a free hit. The problem with that is it invites people to do egregious things like spam the right hand. And so I've seen Deontay Wilder players complain that Muhammad Ali hits harder than their Deontay Wilder. It's two things going on. It's yes, he's hitting ridiculously hard with that right hand, especially when it's spammed. And two, your Deontay Wilder is probably allowing the hit to get in and you don't even realize it because that right hand is always going over the left shoulder. So just some food for thought. Maybe you guys can work on fixing that, and I'm actually going to show you guys how to fix that annoying spam on one side to the body and or to the head that we've been dealing with all throughout the game, the state of the game so far. But again, because that exists, it does encourage people to spam one side, especially when they know it's guaranteed to get in. Hold that. That lands. Locked. 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 All right, real fast. I should have elaborated before I recorded it. But just so you guys know, if you look at the controller on the screen, you'll see that both triggers are being held and the character is leaning toward their left. What happens is you pick up the opposite glove of the direction you're leaning at. So if you got a guy spamming left hooks, block with the handcuffs, which is both triggers, and then lean left. You'll pick your right glove up and you'll catch every left hook. If you got a guy spamming right hands, same, do the opposite. Lean right and you'll pick up your left hand and you'll catch every right hand. Lands, blocked, lands, blocked, 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 lands, blocked, blocked, blocked. So, as you lean, you put a glove up. Now, you're going, in this position, you're actually blocking body and the head. I no longer have options. I no longer have access to these two attacks. And you notice, this person's not even blocking the body. They're blocking their head. But the reason the body's being blocked as well is because their character's in a position where, with the physics engine, I'm hitting their elbow, I'm hitting their arm. I cannot hit their body. Now I'm hitting their body. Now I'm hitting their body. Now I'm hitting their head. Now I'm hitting their body. So these are open to me, but these are not. So with the body, this is going to protect you against the straights. And the hooks, if I'm at a range where they're actually going to hit the elbows. But if I'm close, they're going to land. If I force a five, boom. If I walk sideways, boom. Now this is actually some more intricate stuff. Now this next thing is going to bleed into the argument that I've seen a few times about there being a lack of a pivot in the game. And when that's said in the forums, I'm not really sure the capacity that they mean it. I'm hoping they mean it in the capacity that it's too easy to be spun. Like, people end up behind your character very often, and that is very true if that's what they mean by my character doesn't pivot. Now, if they're referring to being able to turn your opponent or step through or step around your opponent, that's you can do that. You can step through, pivot, and get around your opponent and get access to their side and all that. But in terms of getting your character to pivot when you're being stepped around, that in itself is a bit more tricky, but it does exist in the game. So before even playing the video, I'm just going to tell you guys straight out, stop blocking. If you got a guy who steps around you, literally stop blocking. Your character will instantly turn. I'll show it to you here. Boom. So here we got a guy blocking the body. Obviously the straights can't get in. At a certain range, the hooks won't be able to get in. That's going to get in. This probably won't. Yeah, that's going to be blocked, blocked, blocked. I can make that get in though. I step aside, then throw. Step aside, then throw. Right? And the only reason that works is because the character is always going to turn a second late. However, let go of your block. Let go of both. They turn with me instantly if the block isn't being held. For anybody who had an issue with saying the character can't pivot, block for me. If I step aside and you let go of those options, you're going to turn with me. So as I step aside, let go, boom. And that's how you can pivot. So again, you can pivot in the game. You just have to be in a position to do so. This is a balancing act. So as the person's blocking, it allows you to have access to these options. It delays their turn. So you can pivot, just an FYI. Also, if I go on a free movement, I don't have to do that side step. Blocking me. If I go on a free movement, I don't have to sidestep. I always get that angle a step ahead. If I stay in regular movement, however, you're going to turn on me a bit sooner, even if you're blocking. So free movement is the way. So you don't actually have to do the sidestep. Just be freely moving. Now, real fast, I'm aware that that's gonna like ruffle a lot of feathers. People are not gonna agree with that, and I'm gonna tell you why I 100% do agree with it and why I like it. And it might just be a mindset that I think about that really makes me appreciate it, or it might be the way they intended it in the game. So when I hold both triggers in the game, I'm unable to move. Right? You cannot walk when you hold both the triggers. You were just stuck in that cement phase. I consider that flat feet. You were as flat footed as possible. Heels and toes are on the ground, and allows you to lean. When I do that, I think of a fighter. Specifically, I think of like James Toney. Why would I say James Toney? Well, one of the issues that James Toney had, as good as his defense was, is that he was easy to spin. The reason he was easy to spin is because he did his shoulder roll / Philly shell / whatever you guys prefer to call it, was a lot different than, say, Floyd Mayweather or George Ben's. The way he did his was a lot of movement from the hips and the torso. James did a lot of ducking, a lot of bending, a lot of leaning. His defense was heavy emphasis on getting below his opponent's rib cage very oftentimes. Whenever he would do that, though, he was very flat. So insert all of his fights with Montel Griffin. Montel Griffin, I'm gonna say, is using free roam. James Toney is holding both triggers. Montel spun James all the time because he was too slow on the pivot because he was always flat. He was always holding both triggers. And that's the way I'm going to describe that and then make use of that. Had he just let go of the left trigger, however, he'd have been able to pivot. And that's how we're going to use that analogy here. So one of the things I like to do when I'm blocking in this game is I like to just slowly rotate side to side, but not while doing back. I don't want to be too exposed. So I like to stay toward the front, stay tight, and rotate side to side. Sometimes I'm going to do a little faster. It's kind of crazy, side to side. And what this does, this kind of guarantees nothing to the head is really going to get through unless they're lucky and hitting the right side at the right time. And I do it very sparingly. If you do it sparingly, your hands are almost always to the side of your head. I'm going to give you a perfect example right here. So like obviously from this position, I'm kind of handcuffed. I got a lot exposed. I can get hit with overhands right here. From this position, I'm higher up, right? And I don't have to lean back to do that. That's just holding both the triggers. So this is higher up. I'm now protected from the overhand and the majority of attacks that you're gonna do. That's a given. But my body's more exposed, right? Now, if I lean forward a bit and then start to rotate, my hands are always covering a side of my head versus if I rotate entirely, face is open. Face is open, face is open. But if I just do it sparingly, I'm always protecting a side, and then one side I'm protecting 100% of the time. So this is one of the best defenses you can do in the game right here. This is actually like stuff almost never gets through. I do this a lot, and a lot of times I have like 300 blocks at the end of the fight from doing this. And I'm winning rounds by jabbing outside of the block. People forget you can jab while blocking in this game, and do straights as well. This is a very good defense. All right, so I want to leave you with this. I really appreciate this game. I think it's awesome. I think it's a tremendous foundation, especially considering its early release. When I think early release, I think beta, like open beta, paid beta. I remember when Smite was a free-to-play game for 2 years. It was a beta, though. It was literally like PUBG, for example, was a beta for 2 years. And both developers accrued a lot of money through microtransactions and things like that, through characters and god packs and things like that. That really helped pump the game even further in development and get a lot of things done. So when they said early access for this, I imagine, okay, it's a beta. I remember when I played the beta last month, I literally told someone on Discord, I said, yo, I would literally pay to play this early so that they could and pay microtransactions for different fighter packs and things like that, so they can start developing further, so they can get money to do more with with development. I feel like the foundation is there. It's really good. There's a lot of really good intricate things in the game, but unfortunately it's really hard to take advantage of those intricate things and have a lot of fun with some of the deeper aspects of the game because of how flawed certain areas are. So those areas are game breakers. The spamming of one arm that people are doing that has become meta, the constant lateral movement that has become meta. Like I'm guilty of it. I'm one of them. I use lateral movement a ton. I've always done it in every game though, so it's really hard for me to get out of that phase. I'm not like a constantly backup guy, but I'm a constantly spin and retreat to the circle, to the center of the ring kind of guy. So that's always been my thing. In this, it's a bit egregious. It's really hard for people to close the distance. But aside from those really like flawed areas that are game breakers, there's a lot of potential. And if they can fix just those two things or find a way to like really limit those two things, we have a lot of potential. For those who do like to play fair and have some fun and try to emulate their favorite fighters or just the real sport, y'all can hit me up. Let's get some fights in, hit each other up, get some fights in, hop on the forums, find some like-minded people. I'm pretty sure when the ESFL decides to start hosting some league fights, they're gonna they're gonna play with the modifiers for damage and stamina, and they're gonna find what works perfect to make everybody happy and have everybody play and as authentic an experience as possible. And that's going to be a lot of fun to do. And listen, I think retail release is probably like a year out, so this is what we got right now. Imagine 12 months from now. Just imagine. A lot of potential. I'm really excited. Yeah, y'all have a good one.